Welcome to the Well Off Podcast, where the goal is to motivate, inspire, and share success principles. I'm your host, George Masri. On this episode, I interviewed Shannon Sullivan and Tobias Smulders, who are real estate agents and investors in the Hamilton, Ontario, and Burlington, Ontario regions. So Shannon graduated from Sheridan College. She started off as an interior designer and then became a certified home staging expert. Later on became a licensed realtor, and her partner, they have their 3 Bulldogs. They currently live in Burlington. Tobias's path was a little bit different. So he started off in college in the construction field and then realized that he wanted to be in sales. So he also got his license. They actually met at a Remax Christmas party, and that's kind of the start of their relationship. Since then, they've been able to accumulate quite a bit of real estate. So on this episode, we talked about how Tobias actually house hacked his first place in 2008 without having any knowledge or experience, how he was able to grow his portfolio using a private loan, how Shannon got started in real estate investing, and then why they started shifting their strategy from owning really cheap homes or inexpensive homes in Hamilton to purchasing really nice bungalows and duplexes in Burlington, Ontario. And the last thing we touched on was why it's really important to have cushions in the bank accounts, especially in a shifting market like what we're seeing now. So I hope you guys will enjoy the episode. Again, just make sure to leave us a review. We're trying to build those up, looking to get to 100 reviews by March. So if we can get there with your support, that would be truly appreciated. And again, if you have any questions about investing, would like somebody to help you figure out a strategy with your portfolio, if you're going through any challenges, just reach out to me. Go to welloff.ca and book a call there. Otherwise, enjoy the episode and we'll be in touch. All right. So we're here with Shannon and Tobias. Thank you guys. Let's talk about your. Yeah, Mandy was telling me, like, what are you going to ask them when they get here? Are we going to talk about dancing? Are we going to? I like it.
Just because we know you, we have a relationship with you guys. We know you guys. Yeah. So I was curious what George was planning on.
So let's talk about where you guys grew up. We kind of know, but share with us. Tell us about your childhood.
Ooh, okay. So I grew up the first 10 years of my life in Mississauga, and then my parents decided to move back to Burlington. When they came from Montreal, they went to Burlington first, so they always loved it. And my parents really just wanted to get back there, like to the schools, all that. So yeah, we moved back to Burlington, and so I was 11, and I've just fallen in love with it. So that's where we live now. I don't know if I'd ever move per se. I think I'd miss it too much. And yeah, so I've been there ever since.
That's so interesting. We actually have a lot in common.
Yeah?
So I grew up in Mississauga, and when I was 11, my parents moved to Brampton. So we kind of have like the same childhood. Yeah. So anyway.
I did not know that you were from, or your parents were from Montreal originally.
Yes.
And I didn't know you grew up in Mississauga. That's interesting.
I know.
I thought you were always in Burlington.
It's changed so much since then. Like Square One was not what it was. And like that movie theater and like the Living Arts Center had just opened up, and that's like where I had dance classes. Like, so it's, completely different now, but yeah. Then we moved to the mid-sized city of Burlington. So yeah.
Cool. What about you, Tobias?
So I was born in Hamilton. My family's from Hamilton, and like previous generation in Hamilton too. And sort of just grew up in a blue collar standard family house. It's pretty basic, like humble area, and lived there always.
Yeah. When did you move to the beach?
Well, we moved to the.
How old?
I would have been 9 when we moved there, but like the beach was not the beach like it is now. Like back then, it was an area that people didn't want to live in, which is funny to think that it's like essentially a ton of waterfront property that nobody wanted anything to do with.
Yeah, but like, you're talking about like that kind of right between Burlington and Hamilton, like that area there.
Yeah,
before the bridge, right?
Yeah. So like basically the lift bridge, from that section between Burlington and Stony Creek.
Yeah.
And we lived there until I was like 18, 19.
Right.
So I spent most of my childhood in that area, which is like an awesome spot to grow up with, just with the lake there and like being a kid and being able to go.
Did you go in the water though? Because that water seems so dirty.
Well, it's connected to all the water and you drink it, so I hope it's not that dirty.
But it's like the source of dirt is there.
Totally. It feels like
all the factories.
All the factories are like definitely an issue, I think, still. But like, what's funny is that's sort of like a common perception. But then a lake like Lake Erie, a lot of people will just go swim there, no problem. But those beaches get shut down a lot, not for pollutants, but they have all the same companies. Like any company that's like on Lake Ontario is on Lake Erie too, like DeFasco and Stelco. They both have like Lake Ontario side and Lake Erie side plants that do the same kind of stuff. But Lake Erie is a shallow, smaller lake, and so it gets a lot of algae growth, like blue algae. So those beaches get shut down a lot.
Right.
Because of that, it's like kind of a funny thing. Like Lake Ontario does seem dirty is the general perception, but I spent entire summers living on the beach, swimming in that water. A lot of people go there still. Like if you go down to the Burlington waterfront, it's sort of condensed, where the Hamilton beach is like 5 kilometers long. So it doesn't seem like that many people, even though there is a lot of people there, where the Burlington section is like really condensed. It's a small strip. I don't know how long it is. Do you know how long it is?
No,
kilometer,
I just know
less
the
than a
path
kilometer.
is so good.
And so it's like rammed, like, and there's no parking.
Yeah.
So it's all the same water. It's all connected.
Yeah. Well, even in Milton, we went to the beach there. There's like this little tiny beach. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. Kelso, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Conservation area.
Yeah. So even there, I remember as a kid going there and swimming in the water, but now we see signs like, hey, swim at your own risk. The water may not be safe. Yeah.
Put a wetsuit on.
Well, we're taking our son too, so we gotta be careful.
Yeah.
Just make sure you swim with your mouth and your eyes closed.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about first of all, how you guys got together, but also your investment journey, because I know you're both investors. Where did that start for you guys? What was the beginning of your investment journey?
Yeah, you should start.
Yeah, I was going to say, should I start?
Yeah.
So I started investing earlier before we met. And I bought my first house in 2008 when I was 24. I bought a 4-unit because I needed to live somewhere. Because, like I said, when I was 18, 19, my parents had sold our family home. So then we had a year where we lived somewhere. And then sort of they were doing like an exit plan out of the city to more remote location. I didn't want to leave the city. So I was out sort of on my own. So I was renting a place, but I knew I wanted to buy. So I had bought this building that was trash. It was a horrific place. And
Tell us how you really
but it had 4 units in it. So I lived in 1 unit and rented out the other 3 units. And at 24 was sort of able to live very low overhead for myself. But yeah, as far as like, I'll tell you a little bit about the building. It was like mouse and cockroach infested, dirty, filthy place,
somewhere.
like 7 layers of dog piss flooring.
Can I ask you a little bit more about this? So as a 24-year-old, most 24-year-olds are out partying.
Yeah.
They're doing their thing. Most young kids can't wrap their heads around. We hear the rhetoric all the time. I'm never going to afford a home. I'm never going to afford a home.
Yeah.
So what made you have the sight to say, I want to buy a 4-unit?
And also 2008 was the recession.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which there was a lot of fear at that time.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So where did that come from?
Yeah. I knew from an affordability standpoint that it would really help to have rental income to offset that. I can articulate that better now. At the time, I'm not sure why I really wanted to do it, but I knew that it was a pathway that would help.
Did you have any mentors at the time that kind of...
Nothing. And I hadn't even read any books regarding it. All of my reading has been done since starting in real estate in like, I don't know. I started in 2012 and probably started reading, realistically reading like 2014, 2015, more around the time that I was with Shannon.
Okay.
But I read these books and go, oh my God, I wish I had read these way sooner. I could have had like a leg up had I known this stuff earlier. I do think back sometimes. I'm like, oh, why did I think of this? And in doing so, I remember my parents always had like a friend that lived at our house, and they would rent a room in our house with us. So I'm like, maybe that had something to do with it. Just like the cohabitating with
For sure.
some people under the same roof
Yeah.
that might be part of it. But yeah, I definitely knew that I wanted to do it. Or even before that, I knew I just didn't have like, I guess, reason or the means to buy something. Probably more the reason than the means.
Gotcha.
Because how I ended up buying that house, a lot of it was from the RSP first time home buyer plan that I started when I was quite young. I'd always worked, but I wasn't super into partying. I did like some stuff, but like I wasn't bananas every weekend going crazy or anything like that. And so financially that helps a lot too when you're not spending that much money doing that kind of stuff.
Where'd you live? Did you live on the main floor, loft?
I lived on the second floor.
Okay.
I didn't specifically pick that place for any reason other than that was the tenant that was the problem tenant in the building, causing a lot of the issues with the cockroaches and the mice and that sort of thing. And
Dive right in there. Get right to the cockroach nests and
yes,
all that. Yeah.
Well, it was funny when I bought that place. I was like, these tenants are a real problem, and you're allowed to evict somebody for the owner to live in the property. So I was like, well, I need to live here, and so part of what we did was we had multiple opportunities for us to go in with pest control prior to me closing. The owners let us do that. And the tenants were happy to work with us. So we had like, I think 4 cockroach treatments and like 4 or 5 mouse treatments prior to doing that. So all of the like sort of murder of the animals and cockroaches happened before I got the building, but then the cleanup was insane. Like we were using a shop vac to vacuum up the place and vacuuming up like in the closets and stuff, and in the pantry it sounded like we were vacuuming up gravel, and it was just dried up mouse poo and dead cockroach bodies. Like it was insanity. It's so gross. I still have the home inspection DVD. The home inspector's like,
I know.
oh, what happened?
Inspection DVD.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Back in the day, they used to do DVDs.
Shout out to
Right.
Castle Rock. I still use them today.
Oh, Daryl.
Daryl. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you were not a realtor at this time.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
And
Is
that's
that part of the. Okay.
that's part of the reason I got into it. So then I bought another building 3 years later through HELOC, not kind of. I wanted to do a HELOC.
Okay.
They were really tough on me about that. So I got a private loan actually from somebody that I knew. And I was like, well, I have the house. I thinking back, I don't think we registered. I gave like a promissory note or something like that. I don't know. But I was like, listen, I got this house. Nothing, I'm going to pay. It wasn't that much money really. Use that for the down payment on the second place. Then, what's so funny? It had 5 apartments.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's the only place you've ever sold.
That's the only place I
right?
ever sold.
Yeah.
It was a legal triplex. And I kind of wish I would have kept it just because it was a legal triplex, which is nice. But I ended up selling that place, and a couple months later bought the house next door to the first place. So it's like good and bad.
Awesome.
Because I wouldn't
What
have been
did
able
you
to
buy that first place for, if you don't mind me asking?
220
220. Was that a legal fourplex?
duplex.
Oh, legal duplex with operating as 4?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the second one, just out of curiosity, like from 2008 to 2011, what did the prices jump up to? Not much.
No jump.
Really?
No jump. I think I paid $210 for that 5 unit. And then I sold that for like around
Right.
$265
Nice.
a year later, but I had done work and cleaned it up.
Mm-hmm.
And then I bought the house next door to the house that I had, which is also a legal duplex. I had 3, and I paid $220 for that as well.
Cool.
And then got into real estate because I was like, oh, this is like a good way to
Like it
make
was-
money.
Dun,
Yeah.
dun,
Yeah.
dun.
Yeah. Dun, dun, dun. And I was like, this is a good thing. And I was like, oh, I need to like help people, show people this. I think I can make money in it. And I think a lot of people get into real estate like, oh, this will be pretty easy, which then you go do the courses and they're like, oh, it'll be easy. And you don't learn anything that you need. And, and then I had the hard realization that it's not easy. It's good a lot of other ways, but it's not easy. But I was lucky in that I had like very limited overhead. I still lived in that 4-unit building. And so I didn't have a lot of expenses where I had to make a paycheck every week or month to make sure that I could survive. So that kind of
For the first bit.
was the segue to allow me to be able to get established in real estate. And then I got established, I think, quickly, luckily, through some hard work and all that sort of stuff. And that was able, but what did suck was that puts like a 2-year buy freeze on anything you want to buy when you go self-employed.
Yeah.
You can't get any mortgages. So that was sort of like an era where I didn't buy anything for a couple of years. And then it was like I was a good saver. So then it became like a buying spree as soon as as soon as I was able to qualify for mortgages. I was like, okay, let's do this.
What was it, just out of curiosity, what was it like finding tenants back then? Like, let's say around 2008 to 2012 in Hamilton, what kind of tenants were you getting?
Well, so when I bought that first house, not only was it like not a great property, everyone's like, are you insane? Why are you buying around there? It's the shittiest neighborhood ever. Are we allowed to swear on this?
Sure, we can now.
We can bleep that out if we're not allowed or something.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
I'll try to keep that in mind.
We'll keep it explicit.
Yeah. And all my friends are like, oh, that's like crackheads and terrible stuff. It wasn't that bad because like I lived there. So
This is downtown Hamilton, lower, right?
It's lower Hamilton,
Yeah.
not right downtown. It's sort of east of that, between like downtown and Gage Park, essentially.
Okay.
More like basically between King and Main.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't, it's not prime choice area, but it wasn't the worst area. And the houses, I just loved the houses and the architecture, like century-old houses. Yeah.
The Butler,
the Butler staircase
the
ones.
secret staircase. Like,
that's
loved
cool.
it.
Yeah. And just like the big 2.5-story brick.
Yeah.
So a lot of upkeep and maintenance on that stuff, but just they're really nice. Finding tenants was tough. There wasn't the same sort of like exposure
Yeah.
that we have now on like Kijiji and Facebook and realtor.ca and all that stuff. It was not as good. So, and then the tenant pool was lower quality.
Sure.
For sure. And the rents were so cheap. Like a 1-bedroom apartment was $600.
Wow. Yeah.
All inclusive.
Nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so crazy how
Wow.
quickly the rents go up. And like
Totally.
there's people that I was talking to recently at an event. This lady said she bought this building. She's been investing for a while, 10 years ago, and she's like, I got to do cash for keys on my own tenants now that I filled the units with 10 years ago because the rents are so much higher now. So
Yeah.
isn't that crazy? You got to do
Yeah.
cash for keys on your own, like find.
I have in that first building, I still have one of the original tenants that were there when I bought the building. They had been there for 5 years when I got it. So they've been there since 2003. So they've been there 20 years,
Wow.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow.
people always are like, oh, when are they going to move? I'm like,
Never.
I don't know if they're ever going to move, to be honest. So,
Even if
been
they
there
do,
for
they're
20
just going to
years.
keep it just for the sake of
and when I first got into real estate, I was like a couple years into it. I'm like, with what you pay me, you could just get a mortgage and buy a house with 0% down because the banks were doing 5% cash back. So you didn't even need a down payment.
Yeah.
And they were just like not interested in owning anything. They're like, well, what if something breaks? I'm like, you fix it because you own it and then you don't owe me money. Like it's your own. And they were just like, nah, whatever. So they're still there.
Yeah.
So I think that that's like, in terms of
Wow.
like growing wealth is not the best move that they could have done. But at the same time, it's what their comfort level was. And I look at them as like, as a tenant, they've given me since 2008, like, I don't know, we'll say average $1,000 a month rent. So like 12 grand a year for like
20.
14 years,
Say.
13 years, they've given me like $150,000. They almost bought the whole house
But yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
just from their rent minus the bank's
Perspective.
cut
Yeah.
Is everything.
and not really caused any problems, like no headaches, not causing issues. So to like kick them out or cash for keys. I would never want them to like feel like they had to leave for that reason.
Yeah, fair enough.
If they were a headache, different story, but
Yeah.
they're always nice and easy to deal with. And they lived like there. I lived there for 8 years. So I like saw them all the time. So
Sure. You have a bit of a bond.
yeah, I just like, I feel like
Tobias has a heart. He has a big heart.
I just feel like they put in their due to the building. So
Yeah.
one day when they leave, I'll be happy that they're gone because I'll be able to go in and renovate, fix it up, and do all that sort of stuff, and also get more than twice as much rent. But
Yeah.
I don't ever want to like make them leave.
Sure. Sure. Shannon, let's hear your story. Tell me, how did you get
Mine's
involved?
not that exciting. So I got into real estate in 2011,
Okay.
and I was just living at home, just saving. But my first 6 months in real estate, I didn't do a transaction. I think I had one buyer, and then they lost their job, and I was like, oh, my whole life, like, and I just needed more people to trust me. So I ended up working under a lady, and she taught me so much in the business, and I'll be forever grateful for that. And so, yeah, for the year and a half, and then once I separated from her, I knew I wanted to, grow my business, and I ended up shortly thereafter meeting Tobias at the Remax Christmas party. So, anyways, when when we met, we were talking, but Tobias was so into investing and told me he had, other homes other than the one that he lives in. And I was just fascinated about that because my parents had our family home. We moved a lot. Like my parents moved a lot. But it was always primary residence, and no one ever talked about investing in real estate. That was never a topic of conversation. And Tobias was like, you should buy a place. And I was like, I don't know. So then I found a place, and I still have it. I love it. And I bought that in 2014. Small little house in Hamilton off Ottawa Street, great little pocket. Those tenants are still there, but I almost backed out. It was $167,500 that I purchased for. And I did a home inspection, and I was like, oh, the roof might need to be replaced next year. And I honestly was like, I don't know if I should go through with it.
As a realtor,
because I was just kind of like, whatever, maybe I'll find something else. Like I wasn't emotionally tied to the house. And then, so anyways, I talked about it. Anyway, I ended up going through with it. I bought it. But my one kind of regret with that decision, I had to assume the tenants in there. So I did claim it as an investment property, but I had not purchased my own personal residence yet. So I wish I had thought about buying a personal residence with 5% down, maybe living there for a bit, and then turning it into a rental, because I think I could have accumulated more on my own in that time period. I'm just a very honest person. So when I went to do that, I didn't want to, literally, I thought I was going to go to like mortgage jail. That's what I talked about. I was like, no, I'm buying this. I'm putting 20% down and all that. So that took a bunch of my savings. So, so that's worked out. They're really low-key tenants. Obviously, rent was amazing then. The cost has, I guess, grown with that property. I was able to take a line of credit out, a secured line of credit, and that also helped me move on to the next place with Tobias. So the growing period with our portfolio, I feel, kind of happened quick. Tobias has no fear. I'm all the fear. So it's like, and it really helps me, he helps me, and get out of my comfort zone, because I don't know if I would have acquired more per se. I was very content with just one. And then when we bought our personal residence, I was so excited about that. But from there, we started learning about, when we bought our personal, we fixed everything up. Like we did even the floors ourselves. We painted every ounce of that house, and I still adore that house. But from there, we then did we refi that one? We
Not right away.
Not right away. It was a few years.
I think we bought something.
We got a line of credit, and then that was basically, I don't know, those lines of credits helped us put down payments on other places. So, and from there we were able to grow. So with each purchase, I've just been so grateful, no matter how nervous I was, because there were a few times when we purchased a property like.
Because I think we bought East 15th without a line of credit first.
Yes.
That was the first one.
So Edinburgh. So my first property, that one helped me with my half of the down payment to buy that Hamilton Mountain, and it was a duplex setting layout, and that was such a great buy. And we still have that property too. We've never sold any of our investments.
We still have every property.
I know. I don't know if we would ever, maybe, but right now there's no plans to. But I'm just, each one has. I don't know, there's certain memories with each of them of like fixing them up and the stress that came along with that. Yeah. And each one has taught us so much. But Tobias is very numbers. It makes sense to him. Go, go, go. I'm very much like, oh my gosh, what if we don't rent it out? What if we don't do that? And Tobias is very just like, well, then we'll sell it. Like, and just,
very practical.
I mean, like, you're a realtor. Like, what else would you do?
But could you imagine if we were both like me? We would have never bought anything because
opposites attract in relationships.
It's been beautiful. I'm so grateful. Yeah. And I even on our walk yesterday, I said, I don't know if we would have acquired what we have purchased without Tobias's like foresight of that. Like you have a very, it's been such a learning journey for me, especially because my family is not into this, and my mom also thinks that we're crazy at times.
So I actually have two questions. So number one, do you have a strategy for the portfolio that you are growing? So do you just buy duplexes? Do you just buy, small multi-units? Do you want to get into something bigger? That was my first question. And second of all, I want to know how your families and friends feel about your investment journey.
Well, so initially when I started, it was just like the more units and the cheaper, the better.
Yeah. Okay.
And then over time, I think I learned that that's not always the best because at a certain point, you become busy with things, and those types of properties typically have like more hands-on responsibility, like more headaches with 4 tenants in one building than 2 tenants. And so then it starts to become, what do you want in your life? And that sort of helped our decision of, we sort of went with, and then so in that, I wanted to make the best available. So like everything was always clean, newer, renovated as best as possible within the budget. And then you could attract the best tenant possible in that group. But you still have, 4 people in one building, all sorts of like, especially those like small conversion buildings, they're not made to have 4 families, where like an apartment building is like concrete floors, concrete walls, everything's a little bit more segregated. So then we sort of decided that we really liked, for the last little while,
in our neighborhood, like where
in our neighborhood where we live, so like a little bit higher end rental with limited availability, so we get good rents because there's not a lot of places to rent, and
it's also just so convenient.
2
like
units.
If anything
of course.
ever happens, we're
if you
like
need a
right
site
nearby.
visit.
And you're managing your own properties.
Yes.
My father-in-law,
Well, that was what I was going to get to, the family stuff too.
Okay.
And then so we transitioned to sort of like, we like duplexes in nicer areas and done up the best as possible to get the maximum rent, because it's also on a duplex in a good area, the gross rent will be very similar to a 4-unit in a less good area, and you only have to manage 2 people or 2 families instead of 4 families. And the stuff that you have to deal with on a duplex is a lot less, and it's a lot easier in a lot of ways. So to be able to get the same amount of money, and the purchase prices were similar too. But we still always bought the least good quality construction stuff, like the stuff that needed the most updates, the most fixing up, because we have
value.
we did on all of our stuff, I think, except for maybe Edinburgh because it was occupied and hasn't been turned over. We always bought stuff that sweat equity could go into. So in the beginning, it was always me doing it myself, and then my dad came to help us a lot, and then it transitioned to my dad coming to work for us full time.
Awesome.
To help with all these things.
So I guess that brings us to the family question. So
Yes.
tell us how your families feel about your portfolio now. It sounds like you have some people working with you.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, they're supportive for sure.
Karen supportive?
My mom definitely, because it's so foreign to her, she doesn't really understand. And sometimes she's like, you can just, maybe, and honestly, it's out of just not really, it's out of her comfort. She doesn't really know.
She just thinks.
Nor
like
do
the
I think
worst
she has
case
an
scenario,
insight.
right?
Yeah, and she's just like, well, why don't maybe you sell it all and then you can get a really nice house, and like and it's not like she's saying like our house is not nice. It's just we live very minimally, and I adore our house, but we don't really need a lot of space. But I think she just knows. So it was always move up buys with her, with raising a family too, me and my sister. So it's such a different world. But once you're in it, it's so exciting. And then we get every year, we're just like, oh my goodness, okay, so where's the next? And I don't know, like, I'm so happy and like I feel so accomplished when we renovate and make, say, 2 really beautiful units. And like we walk by them often, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like,
and like restore places back to like glory, because they're a lot of the time they're really beat up or they're really old, and we sort of revitalize a home back to being beautiful.
And and some of these duplex settings, like we're able to rent to tenants that necessarily can't go into a building because they do have a dog or a cat, and we welcome that, and I get really excited over what happens once we
outdoor space.
Outdoor space, yeah, and just I don't know, we take a lot of pride in it, and I get really pumped about that. But now moving forward, I think we've been talking about kind of what is next. Do we keep adding, because financing, obviously these properties were kind of at where lending is not an option. Tobias had closed on a condo this year that was new, which was pre-construction, that was brand new for you. I've never done that before, but that was a B lender. So he's also gone a private route too, on certain ones. So we just try and figure out what makes sense, because the more money that we can put back into these properties is kind of, I don't know, just a better option instead of putting it down and then not being able to fix up anything for the future tenant, right? So I would love to explore. However, it's super foreign to me to have, say, the thought of an apartment building or even a 6-plex or an 8-plex, something like that. But you always have to start somewhere, right? And learning a new topic. I mean, Tobias has obviously done a bit more research on that because it interests him, but you can tell that you're very, I'm just very more emotion driven, and then you're so good with like the numbers and everything. Yeah. I also don't do the leasing for our units.
Oh, you'd be terrible at that. You'd be terrible at that.
Literally did, and it was a horrible experience, and I based it because I liked their dogs. Yeah. And I wanted their dogs to be friends with our dogs. And honestly, it was horrible. And I do this every day for landlord clients, but I'm in such a business hat. Like it's so completely different. And then for whatever reason, I turned off all of that when it was my own property. Yeah. And lesson learned. And now there is a system that goes along with the leasing for our personal properties. Sure. And it's just smarter. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the strategy for a while was the duplexes, and then also like cash flow, a lot of people are worried about that. We didn't worry too much about that. We look at like the portfolio as a whole. We like when that cash flows a little bit, just to not have to pay out of pocket, because we keep all that money separate. The sort of the rental business runs, operates, and funds itself. And a lot of people get caught up in it doesn't cash flow, but there's a lot of other ways that you make money in rentals that are better than cash flow. So that was sort of our goal. But tell us a
bit about that. What do you mean?
Yeah. So just as an example, if you have like a house that, like a duplex we bought recently was $1,050,000. $1,035,000.
Burlington duplex.
Yeah. And so we spent, I think, all in about 1.1 on it. So we spend about $4,000 a month on the mortgage, but almost half of that is principal pay down. So like essentially $2,000 is going to that house's like little pay down bank account, whatever you want to call it, but it's $2,000 a month profit, where it would be very difficult to get $2,000 a month cash flow on almost anything. So that's income. And then any appreciation, even at like a small amount of appreciation, which we're recording this at not a great time to talk about that, but we look at everything on like a minimum 10-year plan. So even if it was like 2 or 3% per year on $1 million, equity growth is going to be more than the cash flow that you can get. So those two numbers offer a lot more. And then those are also like capital gains versus personal income gains, which where we're at right now, personal income, you pay a lot of tax on that. So the capital gains, if you can shift more of your income and growth to a capital gain than a personal income, it would be better, I think, at this point where we are right now.
I think a big thing too, that we didn't really talk about, but was huge for me. So both my parents had jobs where, it was like the typical, like you get your benefits and you can retire at some point. And I just thought that was normal. And then I became self-employed and I realized, I can't just go to the dentist. Like I literally, my world was rocked, and I thought, I need something to, other than just saving, because I don't believe putting your eggs all in one basket, but I needed something for the future. Will I be able to retire at some point? And I wanted us to have that safety, just a plan.
Sort of like a retirement plan.
Yeah, because I don't know, we weren't going to have pensions, and it was just different.
One of my favorite things to do now is to look at our P&L spreadsheet of our whole portfolio and just look at the gross total for the year and go, one day when we have no mortgages, this is what we'll get.
We play guessing games
one
and
day.
Stuff, but one day,
This is the retirement income one day.
So on that note, what are you guys trying to accomplish with your portfolio? Are you again going for like a certain cash flow number, or do you just want a net worth number? What's important to you?
I know we've been really talking about that now, that because not that it's a game, but it was very.
It is a game they call Monopoly.
Well, it's just like we try to acquire,
no,
and especially while we were like younger too, like, just what can be doable, what's possible, because I never really thought about it. And now we're like getting to this point where we're like, okay, how is this going to support our lifestyle, and what does this want like after? But like I feel more secure, and especially with real estate being the ups and downs that we've had just in the last 12 months. I've never felt so okay at night going to bed and not having to worry, because I'm like, okay, at the end of the day, even if we don't do another sale, like not that we plan to not do a sale for 6 months, but we have something and we're going to be okay. To me, that financial security has meant more than, I don't even know if I could ever figure that out. Like
Yeah.
I can't even describe
Yeah.
that, how amazing that makes me feel, you know? So,
You're in kind of like an exclusive pool. Not that many people get to experience what you experience.
oh, I know. And it is a privilege. And I mean, I think, you know, all the saving that we've put for down payments, all that like stress of all those things, like the end of the day, I'm like, oh, like it paid off. Like, okay, all right, we're gonna be okay, you know? And so.
And that's over a long time. Like you started in 2008. So you're talking, what is that? 15 years. It's so, I think there's this kind of idea sometimes that things happen really fast. Like, you know, sometimes you'll hear at events like, oh, you'll be rich in 5 years if you do this, or 3-4 years. Just focus for that, which is possible, definitely. But I think for most people, it takes a little bit longer to get to that point, right?
Yeah.
That it's easy. I think a lot of people think investing is easy and
Yeah.
Yep.
just going to buy a house and put tenants in and
Collect all that money every month.
yeah.
And there's going to be nothing and all that. And it's, you know, there's so much more to it. It's, like the calls and everything. And we obviously try and be respectful tenants, or have our tenants, you know, understand that we want to do repairs right away. Like we're not just going to leave things, you know, but that all takes time. And I don't know, it's,
It's a big
it's
learning.
it has been, yeah.
Totally. Over time. A lot of, even in
Yeah.
just the last, like, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, so many things have changed
Yeah.
with what we do with tenants and how we decide who we're going to rent to and that sort of thing and what product we're going to put out there. But
Your systems have changed.
totally.
Yeah.
But I think for me, like, I always had a goal, like, I don't know why, was to have 10 houses, which I thought would take like forever.
Yeah.
And then when I got there a little while ago, I was like, well, I don't know. It doesn't seem like enough now. Now, what do I do? I don't know why I had that number, but
Yeah.
for some reason,
Well,
I think goals are
Yeah.
good. So you have something to go towards, because if you don't have a goal or direction, it makes it very difficult to make a plan to go anywhere. But once you reach a goal, like, you can always change it or adjust where you want to take things. And I think now our goal, I think, is to, we built a lot. So even for me, like, I'm pretty, I'm not really risk adverse. Like, I'm not worried about risks so much, but I think that I've been more conservative in the last couple of years in terms of leveraging and that sort of thing, sort of just trying to, like, shore up any pillars to make sure, like, everything is secure now before, like, really taking a big jump into, like, something like
Absolutely.
an apartment building, because an apartment building is one unknown, and then also more costly in a lot of stuff. But
Yeah.
You
we know
have a
it's
bit
like the
more
next
to
step.
lose at this point than when you were 22 years
Totally.
old, right? Yeah. It's, when you're 22, you'll go live in that building with the cockroaches and all that.
Yes.
Now, and you're going to, like, use every last penny you have to grow
Yeah.
your portfolio and maximize your leverage. But
Yes.
when you have a couple properties and you have a bit of a portfolio, you don't want to take those risks and lose everything.
Yeah. And you don't have as much, like, requirement to do that. And like you said, with more to lose, there's also not as much to gain by leveraging that much either.
Right.
Like, you will get gains, but in terms of comparison to your portfolio, when you have one house or no houses to leverage, or to have to get one more place,
Yeah.
when you have a number of places that you could lose, you could just being smart with it.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But I don't think anybody should be scared that they're going to lose, because I think as long as you're, like, smart and honest about where the position is with everything and you get good advice from professionals, it's very difficult to, like, not do well.
Yeah, I think people get so wrapped up in the fanciness of reading these investing books and asking, you know, oh my goodness, I've had the weirdest questions sometimes, and I'm like, hey, so, okay, let's go back to basics.
Yeah.
We're going to look in an area that I know you'll feel most comfortable with. If you live in the basement suite and say you have a tenant, you know, it's near a hospital. We're probably going to attract, you know, a nurse or, you know, a resident and student, something that's going to suit you. Let's just get back to, let's figure out your down payment. But the best advice I think that Tobias ever is just do it. And once you do it, it's like, it's scary. It can be really scary, but you're going to close on it and it's going to come together, and there's people here to guide you. Like, that's what we try and teach, you know, and I hope, like, we have a lot of nieces and nephews, like, you know, 2 are on the way, but we have 10. And honestly, it's like teaching them too. Like I always say, when you're 18, what are you going to do? And, you know, my nephews know, like, we're going to buy a house, but I don't know if they actually really know, but I'd love to teach them young to be like, because it was so inspiring. Tobias had a client that he was 18, right? And he purchased, and he still has it, and he's still just a baby. And I just think about, oh my goodness, if you're going to do that age, like, just think about what you're going to be able to accomplish by the time you're 30 and all that, you know?
For sure.
There's
I don't know if I would have been able to do that at 18. I was so irresponsible.
I know. Well,
I was like spending every dollar I made or had or whatever.
Well, I think this is where generational change is going to come in, because if kids don't take in what you tell them, they take in what you show them. Yeah. Right? So being the role model, being that person that they look up to, your nieces and nephews are going to see what you're doing, and maybe what you say doesn't make as much of an impact, but they're going to see what that effect has on your family.
I want to be like Uncle Tobias one day.
Yeah, right?
Oh my God. I know they all do want to be like
Toby?
that, but
Uncle Toby?
Uncle T.
T.
Or TT.
Yeah, tries. Yeah. But I mean, it's simple as like our part-time jobs. I just think about, even if I had taken $200 from my Fortino's, you know, bakery checks, instead of spending it on food at my lunches, like if I had just taken that and saved a bit, I think about the down payment that I would have, you know, had just when
you just need that first one.
You just need that first one.
Right.
Oh, and it's so amazing.
The saving for that first one.
It gives me chills. It's so exciting.
I've always said that, like, the first one's hard because you got to get that down payment. The second one's the hardest because I think banks are most scrutinous, and then you have to save up. If it's not going to be your primary residence, you got to save up the most amount of money, 20%, and the second and third by themselves.
Funny story about the first one, because you were talking about the home inspection on yours.
Yeah.
So I did a home inspection on mine. There was a lot with mine. Like, I had cockroaches and fleas in that one. But anyway, as I'm doing the home inspection, this guy's walking through, and eventually after a few minutes, like, he gets up to the loft and he's like, okay, listen, can we just end this here? Because first of all, I don't normally say this, but because you're a realtor, I'm going to tell you, I don't think you should buy this house. This is the worst house I've ever seen.
Really?
It's like, if we end the inspection now, I'll go home. I'll only charge you $200.
That's how bad he thought it was.
Yeah. But it wasn't that bad. I don't know what was wrong with this guy. It was bad, but not that bad.
Yeah.
So anyway, I agreed. I'm like, oh my God, this home inspector is telling me it's the worst house he's ever seen. I should listen to him. So I pay him $200, and then I go home and I'm like freaking out. But I'm like, no, I think I should still buy this house.
Yeah.
So I did, and it ended up being awesome. Like, I did really well with that house. So I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
He still owns that too.
Yeah.
Oh.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that gives me
Yeah.
like just the thought of it.
So let's talk about it's February 2023. So you were talking a bit about how this isn't the greatest time for appreciation and whatnot. What are your thoughts? Like, how are you guys going to adjust moving forward? Are you still buying at this time, or are you guys waiting? What's your strategy?
Not buying right now. We just closed on a property August, I think it was.
I was going to say 6 months ago.
Yeah, 6 months ago. And that was...
Construction?
No.
Okay.
No, this was...
I got closed on the pre-construction in December too.
Yeah, this was our last.
So we bought
joint,
2 houses last year.
Okay.
Yeah, project. So for me, I realized also, just being in the business that we're in with self-employment, there's a number that I feel best having in our rental account, where
like
the
a
rent's
cushion.
A cushion. Yeah, because just also going through the last 2 years and seeing, you know, the courts were backed up. If anybody wasn't paying rent, I thought about all those scenarios. So, you know, we discussed just in general, like, for the two of us to feel like okay. And I don't necessarily have interest in taking that. I know we probably could and go purchase something else, but it would have to be fabulous, you know, for that to happen. So I think there's some times where you just need to, it might make sense. Like, I actually think there's some pretty good purchases out there right now. Maybe if I had a little bit more set aside, but we're just in a different season right now, I think, for our investment story.
Are you guys buying in your personal names or in corporations?
Personal names.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And that's like 12 places.
Yeah, that makes it really hard to get financing.
yeah. Yeah. So we're trying to figure out like.
And I was going to say, I think it's a combination. I think it's a combination of that cushion in terms of the amount of money, and then also the financing has been that was tough.
Yeah.
So to make the numbers work on something, it's got to, because I would say that we're still buying and we're always buying.
Yes.
I think now and probably in the last like 3 years, we're more selective on what we buy. Where before I was just like, oh, it's a good deal, I'll buy it.
Yeah.
Like if I think it's going to make good money, I'll buy it. Where now it's like a little bit more criteria to it, just to say like, there's so many houses that you could buy and sell and make.
Now, like the supply is a little bit. Well, it depends on the market, but there's a little more supply, especially in Hamilton. Like
Totally.
tons of options there in the Niagara region.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then with the transition in our thought process to maybe get a larger building, like a larger multi-unit, I think that
we
want to get
do
more money.
Research on
Yeah,
that
yeah.
and
Got to
do that.
collaborate to get a large building with 2 other realtors.
Yes.
And trust.
Yes,
Yes,
I know.
that's fine too.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know.
We actually have never done any partner work or any
Yeah.
joint ventures or any things, because I know that a lot of people see, like we've seen speakers and stuff talk, and they're like, oh, I have like 100 doors.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think it's incredible that you've even gotten to this point without any JVs.
Yeah. Why
any
is that? Why
partnerships.
don't you want a partner or haven't to this point?
well, I think I think owning 25% of 100 doors or us just owning 25 doors ourselves is the same. And we don't really bring a lot to a JV in terms of qualifying for financing, which I think is what a lot of people
But you're
need.
thinking on the residential side. You could bring
Yeah.
a lot on the commercial side
Yeah.
because they're going to look at your portfolio and your net worth.
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
other thing is, I think that it's very important in any like partnership, whether it's investing in real estate or anything else, that everybody has sort of the same ethos in what they plan to do. And I think a lot of people have differing opinions on what they want to do. Like essentially for us, I think we're a little bit more, I don't want to say frivolous, but we're more willing to spend money on the building or the apartment or even the exterior, or we'll renovate sooner before somebody would, or we'll repaint everything and fix everything before somebody would. And I would not like to be in a situation where we can't do what we want to do with the property because we're only 25% of it, or we're only half of it, or something like that. So we would definitely have to, for a joint venture, be really clear on intention with the building, and then even on an exit strategy, because you don't want to get put in a situation where one owner wants to get out. I don't know if it's 50-50. Yeah, we heard a lot of bad stories in different situations. I'm sure there's lots of good stories too, but I think that because we're in a partnership, so we're already 50-50.
But we outline too what happens.
But we
like,
know what we want to do.
If we, on a personal level, decide not to be together, how does that look? Like what is that exit? Are we selling? Does one of us have the option to buy each other out? Like we talked about all of that because we're not. I mean, it can happen, but. Yeah, to go to the next level with like a building and stuff, literally that was just as of January, me actually like thinking about it, because Tobias has talked about it in the past and I'm just like, I had no interest, but now I'm like, oh, I feel like something's guiding me to like learn more about it, and it also it would be a new challenge because I don't know much, and I do want to gain more knowledge on that, and yeah, so I don't know. I think that's the beautiful world that we live in here, and especially in Ontario too, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of options. Explore them. It saddens me to think people are always like, "Oh no, I'll just never be able to," and I'm just like, "Oh, is it a goal though? Because if it is, I will get you in front of all the different people, and we'll try and help you as much as we can, just to try and, and even for friends and stuff. Like, I don't have many friends that like to." Invest or have never expressed it to me, but it would just be like, oh, this is our experience and here, but I don't find a lot of people, I don't know.
I was going to say,
I was gonna
much
say-
about
I
it.
think you guys
right?
share too much about your investment. journey.
I mean, I know it's a little, sometimes it's,
Tobias has a podcast, and he's been doing it for 3 years.
I think 4 years now, because it was pre-pandemia.
I
Yeah.
actually didn't know that.
Yeah.
Why didn't I know that?
little
I don't know.
tidbit.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought we were friends,
tips.
Tobias.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
once a month. Yeah, once a month we do
Yeah.
it. But yeah, also I don't think it's that we wouldn't do it. I think it's just the opportunity in the product or the partner hasn't like come out of it.
Yeah.
And then I think for like listeners, I would say don't be opposed to it, especially if like one party brings something important to the situation.
yeah.
Like one person has money but doesn't have time, and the other party has time, but just make sure everybody lays out expectations and value
Yeah.
of those things
Yeah.
in the beginning. And then if you have sort of set expectations, people won't have such bad breakups if that should happen. But I think a lot of the time that's like an opportunity for somebody who wants to invest but can't on their own to really get started too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I'm in a situation now where I have a project where I have two partners that have actually been are experienced investors that have done really big projects and whatnot. So there's three of us that are all kind of active, even though I'm the one who's kind of taking the project on.
Yeah.
But it's been really interesting. It's the first time I'm in this situation where I'm kind of like I'm not making all the decisions, but it's actually leading to good things because we're figuring out cool ways to do things that's saving us,
Collaboration.
saving us
Love.
time and money. It's a
And
little more
figuring out-
stressful that
Yeah.
way. Because again, I don't have full control, but
Yes.
it's
But you're coming
it's-
up with some creative
Yeah,
solutions
yeah.
And getting things done quicker. So
I love
Cool.
it.
I like that. And yeah, I think like something like that
experience.
to draw on someone else's experience is a good situation for sure. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I love hearing about that, Yeah.
Was there anything you?
I was just curious, is there any collaboration between your teams eventually? Because you guys run your own very successful real estate teams.
Oh my
yeah.
goodness. Oh, and like real estate.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I'm very, I think Tobias.
I think we have done successful collaborations already. We've
Well,
had some really
we
great
co-list sometimes.
co-lists with some great clients that went really
Yeah.
well. And I think that's a situation where no one person is really in charge. And we
I
came
just
up with
worry
some
about
creative
our
solutions.
like personal, our relationship is like my highest priority. I just don't, I can get very, I can be very type A and very, and I would hate to ever, I don't know, for our relationship to go south because we're working, we're living, we're, and our whole world is a big portion of it just because of the investing and real estate and stuff. So, I mean, we do close, like all our events and stuff are co-done and everything like that. But on a day-to-day basis, I still find the excitement learning his challenges, and then we bounce things off each other all the time. So I still like that aspect. I think it would make a lot of sense with like our administration help and stuff like that. Maybe down the line, but right now it's just been, I think, the best. I don't know. I really love it. I love how things are set up. And the thing is, we work very similarly too, though. Like both have really high
Shannon's fear
referral.
is one day she's going to be really busy and I'm going to be like, I'm not doing anything today. And then she's going to be upset that I'm sitting on the couch with the dog and she's got to go off to 20 appointments running around.
Well,
and
it's just different. But I mean,
It's been really cool to watch you both grow because we've known you for a few years now. It's been really cool to see your teams grow and just your business grow. It's been
Well,
awesome.
that actually makes me think of something because I think over the last few months you've been working with lenders on Power of Sales, right?
yes.
Can you tell us about that? Are you still doing that? Are you seeing an uptick in Power of Sales?
Yes and no. I think all the situations and I think different areas we'll see like more of it. But yeah, all different types of properties. I would say whether maybe my relationship has been built more so, and maybe their trust, but this year, leading up, actually, I would say the last quarter of last year into this year, I've worked with them more. Whether this will continue, I'm kind of, because I would only do maybe 1 or 2 with them, during the year and stuff. So it's a whole different breed for sure. Not, I don't know, at all like what I'm used to when I'm working with a typical seller client, where we can, present the property the way we want and market and all of that stuff. So, it's very no emotion, very business, very, here's the product. Does your buyer want it? Okay, great. Here's the rules you got to follow. Here are the schedules, all of that, So, so it's taught me so much on, also like time is of the essence, and lenders don't have time to dick around. Like they don't. So, and, so I just I've been trying, cause I'm very, also like very relational, and I love like explaining everything in detail. Like I remember one time I was like, should I explain all the paperwork and send it? Like, this is my typical process. And there she's like, no, like, well, she's like, we understand. Like, we have a we've done this before. So
it's been a growth moment for Shannon
too.
Yeah.
And I'm so great, but I'm
Which
grateful.
Is good.
Yeah. And vice versa. Like, I think that's the cool thing about it too. Like, responding and stuff. I'm just learning how to be a bit more direct and when need be. And that's a goal of mine. I don't want to just cater to one area, like one type of buyer or one seller type. Like, why not?
Yeah.
I like challenges. Yeah.
So we've been here for a while.
I know.
Do you guys feel like there's anything we missed, or any messages you want to put out there to people that are listening?
No, just go and do it.
Like Nike said.
What?
Like Nike said, just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
I know you're interviewing us, and maybe you covered this on other podcasts or something, but you guys do investing too. Oh, you're not usually here. Oh, fun. Do you have any like trajectory for your future investment plans, or what's sort of your goal or direction where you're going with things?
Yeah, we always talk about this. We just have a cash flow goal, because at the end of the day, we want a certain lifestyle. So the cash flow is not just from the properties. We're looking to create other avenues as well, so that we don't just rely on real estate per se. But yeah, we intend on eventually getting a place in Italy and just traveling across Europe, bringing the kids, not for the whole year, obviously, just for a couple months or maybe the summers or whatever.
Yeah.
So we just want
we want to travel more, live a fuller life,
and
have the cash flow basically replace our income.
Love
I
it.
don't know if I'll necessarily fully retire, but definitely slow down and enjoy life, because I feel like life is too short and things can.
I know.
So we've been investing a little bit, not as long as you guys. So I started in 2017. Mandy bought her place in 2018. So we've been kind of involved in real estate since then. But yeah, we're just growing the portfolio and
I love that.
Reaching that cash flow number.
I think the key to take away from it too is it's never too late. Like whether you started in 2008 or 2018 or whenever, just start. Like you said, just do it. Just start with something.
I know.
And there is opportunity, and it really irks me when I hear, "Oh, I'll never afford something." It's like, okay, well, if you keep saying that and putting that out into the universe, you won't.
I think that's a good message too. And then even for people who think it's too late, like we had a friend, I think he said that his person started investing when they were 57.
Yeah.
Bought their first investment, and they went from buying a bunch of investments. They decided, I think they were around 60 something, 65 maybe, said they didn't want to manage tenants anymore, sold everything, and they do only private lending.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of different avenues. It doesn't just have to be rentals with tenants and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just good to have a goal somewhere. And I think even for people who are older and more established, it's even easier to get started, especially if they own their own home.
For sure.
Yeah.
Already.
Well, I recently met someone at an event that said that he was doing IT contract work. And so when his contract was over, this was like maybe 15 years ago or something, they let him go. Like, we're not renewing your contract. So he's like, okay, I'm going to start buying real estate. I think he said he bought 19 properties in that year.
Amazing.
This was back when, like you said, you can get like 0% down mortgages or whatever.
Yes.
But yeah, he made a lot of money in that year by buying all that real estate. So it's pretty cool what you can do.
That's focus.
Yeah.
Totally.
Wow.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like a
Wow.
house every 2 weeks,
Oh my goodness. Could you
2.5
imagine?
weeks. But yeah.
Yeah, banks are like, no, I'm good.
Well, that's the thing.
Back
It
then, they
wasn't-
were like, "Oh, yeah, okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Take
Yeah.
the money."
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aw, this has been great. I want to stay here all
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, this has been awesome.
Just hang
Thank
out.
you so much for having us.
Let's talk about the services you guys are offering, which if anyone was listening, they probably know. But how do they reach you as well?
Ooh, you can reach me direct. I'll just give my number, 905-220-0178. I don't know.
You see what happened to Tobias there? When you did
I
that?
just that's the quickest. I actually
That's
had a
so
client
funny.
that reached out through Messenger, and I was
Maybe
like,
they don't want to
I
talk to you on the phone and they just want to creep you online first and find out what
Yeah.
services you
Oh
offer.
my God. Well, thesullivanteam.ca is my
so
website.
You sell real estate and you help investors, and
Oh, yeah.
you work in Burlington, Hamilton.
Yes.
Yeah. The
That's so
Halton and Hamilton, into
Yeah.
Niagara areas. But I thought you meant just if they want to talk about investing. But yes. No. I do that full time and then, investing on the side.
Yeah.
And what's your website?
Same thing. Buy, sell, invest, and we do help landlords too find tenants and help them, sort of get set up if they're early on in their sort of thing. We help them guide them on what to do with their tenants as they progress through it as well.
Yeah.
It's teamsmolders.com. And they can find us also on Instagram and Facebook and all that fun stuff. If I'm lucky, my name, pretty much if they just Google it, they get me for sure. Yeah. It's 100% me every time.
Yeah, that's been fun. We have like an investor package and working with investors, and it's even especially for that first one, it's like, okay, don't worry, you purchase this, we're gonna help you. This is our
Hand-holding.
investor. Yeah, all
The
the hand-holding, all
package.
the tenant.
That's okay.
We lease that out,
Totally.
and they're just responsible for paying the tenant's agent or whatnot. So it's really a lot of guidance, right? And just
Guidance education.
guidance education.
Cool.
I love when they're informed.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. This was
You're
fun.
welcome.
Appreciate it. And
Thank you.
we'll
Thank
make
you.
sure to send you guys all the information so you can pass it on to your clients and friends and whatever else.
For
Beauty.
sure.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, George.
Thanks for listening to this episode. Your support is truly appreciated. And if you can share this with a friend or family member that might benefit from the information, remember our goal is to motivate and inspire others to take action and to build wealth and to become well off. Enjoy the rest of your day.